What's up, everybody? Gun here. Happy Friday, October 25th, 2019. You've made it to the weekend. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed a really fun 3 games of NBA action last night. I did. Usually, smaller slates are a little bit more yucky for me, but I actually enjoyed each game pre-flop. Like, I thought each game could be fun, especially the 2 games on TNT, man. The Clippers, I love watching the Clippers, and then Milwaukee and Houston was pretty tightly contested. And then Giannis got in foul trouble, and it was a matter of can the Bucks hold on, and they did, by way of some poor shooting by, surprisingly, James Harden. So I enjoyed it, man. I made some money last night. DFS, both sites, FanDuel, DraftKings. A lot of fun takes went right. If you guys joined me on the Twitch stream yesterday, I cannot thank you guys enough. Twitch.tv/Gundacker99. We're doing live streams, the live breakdowns. You guys that have followed the channel for the past 4 or 5 years, those pre-lock, not pre-lock, but those afternoon live streams that you guys could float into the chat, have some fun, kick back, relax, talk some basketball, and listen to some colorful debates. We're still doing them. We're just doing them on Twitch. So if you haven't already, man, head on over to Twitch, make an account, try something new. If you got a mobile device, wherever you consume this content on, whether it be your phone, your iPad, maybe it's a laptop, they have the Twitch app you can download, iOS, Android, whatever. It's a really good app, and you can be part of the fun. We can do so much more on Twitch from a live stream aspect, and we have been having a little bit more fun. Get to play some tunes, and I'm working on more and more interactivity with the Streamlabs and the chat. So help us grow something. We're growing something really nice, and I think last year we probably averaged 200 to 300 live viewers in our afternoon live streams for NBA. We've been sitting around 50 peak on the first 2 Twitch streams, and one of them was a 3 game slate. So I'm really confident that we start with a quarter, and we can build from that. So, man, help us continue that. Go over to Twitch and be there. Today's Twitch stream will be at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. It's a bigger slate. Yesterday we did 4 p.m. Eastern just for 3 games. Today we're going back to the 3 p.m. Eastern start time. So be sure to kind of look out for that. You'll get a push notification on your phone. Sometimes I'll even turn the stream on a few minutes early, hang out, let you guys get in the room. So come be part of the fun, man. Last night, 3 games. It doesn't matter. We still got some awards to hand out. First of all, Beast of the Night. Come on down. Giannis Antetokounmpo. My man fouled out early in the game and still led the entire slate in scoring 70.75 DraftKings fantasy points at 10.3K. Had a triple double in 28 minutes of play. Fouled out, and then it was a matter of whether or not Milwaukee could hang on to the lead, and they could because surprisingly, James Harden was 2 for 13 from the field. Had James Harden shot closer to 50%, might have been a different story. So easily the beast of the night there, Giannis Antetokounmpo, bust of the night. If you guys listened to the live stream yesterday, I feel like I was the only guy on the planet that did not like Steph Curry yesterday. I had 0% of him. He was not at all in my tiered player pool in the VIP section. I had none. Steph Curry, 9.4K on DraftKings, 33 FanDuel points, 10.3K on FanDuel, 28.8 FanDuel points. Was absolutely not on my radar. And if you guys really want to know how I felt, hey, why don't we check out this clip from Twitch yesterday? And this is kind of what you missed out on. You get to hear Showstopper was all over, or Raj was all over Steph Curry yesterday, and I was not. And Steph Curry was 44% owned. So here's what we had to say yesterday. All the big names here to be not on. I'm on Kawhi over Steph, and he's cheaper.
Steph's definitely outscoring Kawhi, just because I think the Clippers are deeper. much.
I disagree. I think Kawhi's still
Steph, Draymond.
No, I'm still more on Kawhi here. I just think Steph Curry is my least favorite stud on the slate. He just is. I still have a range of outcomes that Trae Young outscores Steph Curry. Like I want to play Steph as much as the next guy. I agree. No KD, all that stuff. Like it's huge, but I'm just not there, man. I'm just not there.
I think people are forgetting MVP Steph. Unanimous MVP Steph.
I think people are forgetting defensive all team defense. Patrick Beverley, Kawhi Leonard. I get it. All team defense was exactly what showed up and showed out for the Los Angeles Clippers today. Absolutely put the Warriors down and smoked them out of the gym in their home opener in the new arena. So, hey, every now and then I get one right, and every now and then Raj gets one wrong. We'll see what he gets wrong today, and maybe I can keep it going. But man, if you guys had some Steph Curry, probably was frustrating to own. He was 44% owned in my tournament. So, like I said, being on the right side of that one worked out for me. So, sucks if you had him. Bust of the night easily. Now let's go to the value of the night, and that's going to be Ivica Zubac, center for the Los Angeles Clippers. 3,500 on DraftKings, 4K on FanDuel. I didn't have any of them. I really didn't. I actually played some of them on the last slate too, which makes it a little bit more kind of salt in the woundy. But he played just 18 minutes tonight, and in those 18 minutes, it was a plus 22, had a double-double, 16 and 10, just an absolute beast, and turned out one of the better value performances on the slate. Shot 8 for 9 from the free throw line as well. It was just a fantastic play. If you played him, congratulations to you. I am not that smart. I might be smart enough to not have Steph Curry, but I was not smart enough to have some Zubac last night. Went almost all in on Andre Drummond, and sticking in that same game, let's go talk about the shock of the night, the player that kind of stunned me the most with their stat line, $3,100 for Patrick Patterson on DraftKings, 27.75 DraftKings points. On FanDuel, he was min-priced 24.1. I actually thought that might have been a chance that Patterson doesn't even start. I felt like maybe he started against the Lakers just to kind of take a bullet or two against Anthony Davis. No, he came out tonight. He started. He played 28 minutes. Get this, had 20 real points, guys. 20 real points for Patrick Patterson. Shot 7 for 13, went 6 of 10 from the line. He was kind of scoring dependent in it ultimately, but just something I did not see. Came out of left field. There were some other like value plays in that game that kind of blossomed in garbage time, but I don't really think garbage time scrubs getting there counts as a value of the day because there's so many hoops to jump through. But Eric Pascal, 27 DKP for the Warriors, 31 minutes there. I don't think he was as crazy. And on the Clippers side, there was another big value play that I'm trying to think of. Give me just a second. Or was it on the Warriors bench here? No, I guess it was just Pascal that I'm trying yeah, it's just him. Yeah, okay. But yeah, shock of the night, Patrick Patterson there. So hopefully you guys had a little bit of the good ones and not so much of the bad ones, and you made out. If you didn't, there's always today, and today we've got 9 games of basketball on the Friday night slate. So not something that maybe will become insurmountable when it comes to managing. And we have some news that shake things up. I mean, we're in mid-season form with some of these guys being injured, some of these guys being out. So we're gonna quickly preview each game by game, kind of talk some ideas, talk some spreads, and maybe some plays that stick out on the first look. But remember, we're gonna dive a lot deeper later this afternoon in the live Twitch stream. So make sure you guys are set up to be part of that conversation Later today, first game on the docket, the Toronto Raptors at the Boston Celtics. We got a 216.5 total, a 3-point spread in favor of the home team Celtics. So this game on paper kind of looks like it'll play a lot slower, maybe be lower scoring than most games. Raptors, I still think, are going to be a strong defense and maybe a middling offense. I think their opening night game, which went to overtime against one of the fastest paced, worst defenses in the league, the New Orleans Pelicans, might be enough to maybe inflate ownership on guys who chase small sample size. So I'm going to have to approach this game with a grain of salt. I still want to like Siakam at 8,100 because I think as he goes forward with the Toronto Raptors, he could very well be a 9K player, being probably the franchise of this team right now. So 8,100, I have to think about it. I still think I'm interested because on the Celtics side, the front court's pretty undersized. Robert Williams. Likely to step up maybe here as a starter, maybe some Daniel Tice, but what we do know is that Enes Kanter is going to be out. He's dealing with a left knee contusion, so the depth chart looks like Robert Williams and Daniel Tice, and maybe Grant Williams gets in there and Jason Tatum plays big. You probably see a lot of Tatum and Siakam match up, but for the most part, feels like you should be able to beat the Celtics down low in the paint, and I think Siakam can do a lot of damage there. So 8,100, I'll think about it, but I think my solution to exposure to Siakam might be influenced by where the field is at on him. Because, like I said, this is a real range of outcome for this game to be pretty yucky, pretty underwhelming. Fred VanVleet, very tempting at 5,700 after his literal career game on opening night. Again, Pelicans a much faster pace, a much worse defense than the Celtics will be. So I'm going to overall taper my expectations here and probably go as light as I can. I don't see myself having any interest in the Celtics. You might try and stretch a reason to play a backup big in the front court. If you walked away with a shot on Robert Williams or one of the bigs there, like I wouldn't think you're crazy there, but I do think there are other value centers today and maybe some price points that we can exploit elsewhere in games that feature less defensive-minded teams and maybe some more upside. So it's going to be one of the games that I'm not on as of now. We'll see if that changes later this afternoon. Next game on the docket, the Minnesota Timberwolves visiting Michael Jordan and the Charlotte Hornets. We got a 228.5 total 5-point spread. Minnesota coming from that exciting overtime win against the Brooklyn Nets, where Kyrie could not convert the game winner. And the Charlotte Hornets coming off a game where a lot of their players really came through on that night's price points. Dwayne Bacon, PJ Washington, and of course, how could we forget Devonte Graham, not Trevion Graham. Both Grahams in this game, by the way, might be a little fishy here. I still have Jake Lemon in my projected lineup, but I think we can go ahead and assume that's going to be Trevion Graham. The Hornets side, I think this is a game I'm definitely interested in, grabbing pieces from both sides. Carlton Towns still a guy that I'm on. I think at 10.8, we're definitely going to need a lot more now on this site, really. But he's still going to lead this team in usage, and this is still a matchup he should absolutely thrive in. You guys just saw what the Chicago Bulls did against this Hornets front court. The Chicago Bulls put up 125 real points, and guys that really led their attack was Lauri Markkanen with 35 points, who shot 25 attempts and went just 1 for 7 from downtown. We definitely think Karl-Anthony Towns could take, or is likely to take, high double-digit shots, and he'll fill up the stat sheet with peripherals. So at 10.8K, I'm still playing Cat. There's going to be other centers today that I really like that I think are underpriced. Just off the top of my head, I really liked the price on Nikola Jokic and Hassan Whiteside. But yeah, absolutely, I'll have some Cat here because 70 fantasy points is probably still a range of outcome. Just maybe not as strong as an overtime game against the Nets. Other secondary plays here on the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think Rocco is going to continue to be a guy that you can take stabs on. Every now and then he's going to hit more shots than usual, and he'll usually give you a steady floor with his his peripherals and whatnot. He's a great defender, can fill up a stat sheet with steals and whatnot. Just kind of reminds me of maybe like a Josh Richardson from last year, where his price kind of kept you at an area where his floor was high enough to keep taking stabs at him, but he's not going to come through in a high percentage for tournaments. But in this matchup, I like him a lot. The Hornets side, Terry Rozier. I think we'll have a fun conversation with Raj about Terry Rozier on the Twitch stream this afternoon. His price came down quite a bit since game one. In game one against the Chicago Bulls, Rozier was 7,300. He played 30 minutes in that game, went 2 for 10. 6,600. It's a $500, or excuse me, it's a almost a 700. It's a $700 decrease in price. The matchup is just as good, maybe better than the Bulls. I would say just as good, maybe better. And the price kind of forgives you if he doesn't break the 40 fantasy point threshold. Definitely think we saw what Kyrie was able to do. I'm not going to put Rozier in that Kyrie level, but it kind of showed you that guards were able to get some shots off against this T-Wolves defense. So I don't mind a shot at a bounce back game for Rozier in his home opener, but I'll be going back to the well on guys like Dwayne Bacon. A lot of these Hornets got a decent price increase on their initial price, but Dwayne Bacon was 5,300 on opening day. He put up 36.75. He only went up $400 today. Again, matchup is okay. I'm not, excited, warm and fuzzy of him blowing that price point out the water. Kind of reminds me of Luke Kennard yesterday, where I liked him in the 3Ks and the high 4Ks. I'm not as stoked. And then PJ Washington and Devonte Graham are the two to watch for potential point chasing opportunities. Devonte Graham is 4,600. In that last game, he was 3,400. So he got a $1,200 price increase from game to game. In that first game, he played 27 minutes, had 8 assists. That's what you like to see, a high assist to kind of prove that he has a floor of peripherals. And then he had 23 real points to boot. Shot at an extremely high efficiency, 6 for 7 from downtown. So maybe unsustainable in that regard, but still a guy that we put in our back pocket as a potential value play. And then PJ Washington, I think is a guy that likely continues to go up in price. But on opening night, he was 5,500, dropped 39 fantasy points, went up 9. It was 55 on opening night, so he went up $900 from game 1 to game 2. So as DraftKings tries to get a hold on these players, PJ Washington becomes a guy that I still think might have some meat left on the bone. On opening night, he played 38 minutes, so the minutes could be there. And guys, Nick Batum is already listed as out, and I think that's something we take advantage of for these guys that we already like as high upside young guys. Nick Batum fractured his finger, and he's expected to be out 3 to 4 weeks. He got hurt in the season opener, and it's going to cast another shadow on his fantasy outlook. He was already in a precarious spot as a veteran on a rebuilding team with young guys ready to usurp his minutes, specifically PJ Washington. So minutes should be there for Washington. That was a blur, by the way, from Chris Haynes on Twitter. I'm okay with going back to the well in Washington at this price point. I know Rocco's defense is pretty stout, but for an active guy that can stuff the stat sheet, I don't mind taking a chance. We saw Taron Prince was able to push 30, 40 fantasy points. I will say Washington had 27 real points that game, led the team, and then kind of put in a couple of peripherals, not a ton, 4 rebounds, an assist, a block, and a steal. So he's on the back burner. Like I'm gonna write his name down now. We'll revisit it this afternoon and kind of talk through what's real, what's fake from the Hornets. But overall, I like the pace of this game. I like the total of this game, and I like the potential of this game. Names I'm walking away with this morning: Cat, maybe some Bacon, maybe some Rozier, Washington, and then I want to have some more T-Wolves. Like no other name is really speaking to me. Looking back at night 1, outside of Cat, it was a really meh performance from everyone else in the game, and that's including overtime. I mean, Andrew Wiggins needed OT to get to 30.5 fantasy points, and he was the second highest scoring player on that team. So I probably don't force the issue with anyone else. Looking at the next game, Brooklyn Nets, the aforementioned Nets, hosting the New York Knicks. Kind of a Subway Series vibe going on here. 225.5 total. 9-point spread in favor of the Brooklyn Nets. Does that one feel a little bit, just a little bit weird? Because, I mean, the Knicks on the road against the Spurs lost by 9. Are we expecting the Nets to cover the same amount as the Spurs did? I don't know if I'm buying into that, but Vegas knows more than I do. On the New York side, we got to be cognitive of their injury situation today. A couple names on their injury report. We'll start with center Mitchell Robinson. He's dealing with an ankle and a finger. He was a full participant in Thursday's practice, and he's being listed as questionable for Friday's game against the Nets. Being a full participant kind of leads you to believe he could be closer to in than out. Marcus Morris scored a team-high 26 points in their opener against the Spurs, shot 18 field goals. He also had 4 boards and assists, 3 steals, and 3 3-pointers. And get this, 39 minutes of play. Here's what I'm scared of, guys. You guys played last year. You might also kind of be there with me. Julius Randle in night 1, 35 minutes. Marcus Morris, 39 minutes. R.J. Barrett, 37 minutes. Bobby Portis, 33 minutes. Can we go off of a 1-game sample size for Dave Fizdale and trust it and move forward and build our lineups around that? I want to say yes. I want to hope so because I like picking on the Nets. Oh, man, Dave Fizdale scares me. He really scares me. But if we can buy into some of that, Marcus Morris and Julius Randle are both intriguing to me at their individual price points today, considering potential minutes, potential matchups. R.J. Barrett, by the way, 37 minutes in that opening game, 33 and a quarter. The Spurs defense all the way around better than what we project the Nets defense to be. And the Knicks have been struggling to lock into a point guard. We saw Alonzo Trier, I think, start that game, but he ended up playing just 7 minutes. Then we saw Dennis Smith Jr. get 10 minutes. And we saw Frank Ntilikina just get 3 minutes. And the guy that floated to the top for minutes and production and fantasy points was Elfrid Payton. Elf on the shelf there got 36 fantasy points in 26 minutes. So that's going to be a carousel, a musical chairs of potential candidates at point guard that I probably am just not going to play with. So I think if I'm going to grab some Knicks here, Randall and Morris kind of stick out. But lest we forget, Mitchell Robinson has some pretty high upside at a $5,500 price point against the Nets front court that could do well. And then on the Nets side, Jared Allen, Coach Kenny Atkinson said that he would start Jared Allen / DeAndre Jordan based on matchups. This certainly feels like a bigger front court to battle. So this might be a spot where we see DeAndre Jordan start. So I'm curious to see how that finishes out. I think Kyrie Irving is the guy that we target from the Nets, obviously. Do we expect him to curtain call a 50 real point game where he almost triple-doubled in overtime? Maybe that's a little harder to get behind, but he certainly showed that with this new team, it's looking a lot like he's running the court and not so much a coach running the court, right? Like when he was with the Celtics, there was a lot of Stevens plays on this team. It's starting to feel like, he's out there looking for shots. He took 33 shots in that game against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The next highest shot attempt was by Karis LeVert at 19. Then Tarin Prince had 13 shot attempts, and Spencer Dinwiddie had 13. So only 4 guys had double-digit shot attempts with overtime, and Kyrie pretty much lapped the field twice when it comes to shot attempts. So the potential volume for him to be a massive shot chucker and get the crowd behind him is huge. I will also say that he only played 38 total minutes, Kyrie, that is, with overtime. So if we believe that Atkinson still wants to have Spencer Dinwiddie involved, and kind of be more balanced in terms of minute distribution like we saw last year, it wouldn't surprise me if Kyrie kind of fell back a little bit in production. I'm curious to see where the field is at on Kyrie. Let me know where you guys are at on Kyrie, because I feel like it was a perfect storm for production. The only thing that I want to make clear is that performance Kyrie had against the T Wolves was not a scoring dependent performance. Yes, he had 50 real points. He also had 8 rebounds and 7 assists. Um, Last year, Kyrie actually averaged over 7 assists per game. But we don't expect him to average 8 rebounds per game, but it's nice to know that the peripherals were there to kind of potentially suggest that his floor could be a lot higher based on his involvement with this team. So, really curious to see what you guys are doing. Otherwise, I'm going to keep the Nets as a. I'll come back this afternoon and think a little bit more type of team here, because Kenny Atkinson does keep a pretty evenly distributed minutes rotation. I also don't expect the Knicks to run at the pace as the Timberwolves did, and maybe chuck as fast as the T-Wolves did. We'll see, though. I could be wrong on that, but I'm just not feeling it because I don't trust the point guard situation for the Knicks. I think it's going to be a lot of big man basketball, getting shots from Morris, from Randall, maybe even from Mitchell Robinson. Next game on the docket, ESPN doubleheader game numero uno, 228 is our total 2.5 point spread in favor of the home team New Orleans Pelicans. It's the Mavs at the Pels. It is Luka Doncic and Porzingis coming out on national TV up against the Zion Williamson-less Pelicans. The Pelicans, of course, were a cornucopia of fantasy points last season. I targeted every game that they were on a slate. They run such a fast-paced play, pretty mediocre at best defense, and right now their front court is pretty undersized. Losing Anthony Davis, losing Julius Randle, losing Zion Williamson. So Brandon Ingram, as you saw in game one, getting bullied by Pascal Siakam, and Derek Favors. I don't I don't look at those guys as being stoppers here for Kristaps Porzingis. So part of me was kind of happy the Mavs didn't break the slate against the Wizards on night one. And here we have Luka Doncic at 9,200 and Kristaps Porzingis at 7,600. Certainly a handcuff I'm willing to run and get. And then Doncic, 9,200 for Doncic here. I was just talking about Kyrie. It's a $200 difference in price. You guys like Doncic over Kyrie? Just heads up, like who scores more points? I think more often than not, I'm going to err to the side of safety, and I think Doncic is going to be a high floor type of guy that could get a triple double here, but definitely stuff the stat sheet with assist and some rebounds there. So I'm definitely loving this game a lot on the surface to scoop up and stack a lot, and I'm definitely looking to get a big game out of Doncic and Porzingis. And then we'll start considering some of the secondary plays from the Mavericks. If we look back at night one for Dallas against the Mavs, it was a kind of a weird game, right? Bradley Beal got ejected. Mavs pretty much held on to a lead, even though it was just an 8-point game at the end of it all. No one else other than Doncic really showed up from a fantasy standpoint. Dorian Finney-Smith kind of got there. He had 10 real points, 8 rebounds. Did play over 30 minutes, so maybe he's a really, really, really sneaky play here. They played small a lot, didn't use Boban. So maybe him, and maybe a guy like Maxi Kleber falls into some rebounds, but I'm not running to play him. Kleber took just one shot attempt on opening night, so I think Doncic and Porzingis are my clear targets here. And then on the Pelican side, Lonzo Ball is going to be a big question mark today in terms of what to do with him. If you guys watched that Toronto game, he did not close out. I don't know officially if he got benched. Maybe you guys can clear that up for me. But he did not close that game out, and they went with a different look for the Pelicans here. Let me go back to that game and actually give you guys some official stats from the Pelican side. Josh Hart pretty much outplayed Lonzo and got the run there. 28 minutes for him. Lonzo finished officially with 25 minutes. Was not in foul trouble. Only had 2 fouls. So I'm wondering if there's something there to read into. 6K would be a price if you told me 35-minute Lonzo at home on TV without Zion, like pre-flop. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm interested in that. Give me some of that, but I'm a little bit worried about what transpired in Game 1. So we'll see if maybe some adjustments were made, and maybe that shakes Lonzo into a get-right spot. Drew Holiday, 8,500 on DraftKings. He was not really a factor in Game 1. Again, the Raptors defense is a defense that I respect more than most, more than the Mavericks. So I don't want to overreact in concrete statue results based on one game on the road against the defending champions. But Drew Holiday was not a giant factor there, and I think as long as Drew Holiday isn't the pure point guard with a need to play 40 minutes, I don't think he's gonna break slates. Even though he did play 40 minutes on that first night, he just didn't do a whole lot. Did take 15 shot attempts though, so maybe in my back pocket I have like a tier 3 rating on Drew here, but I don't think he's going to be someone in my front end. JJ Redick, I'm probably not there on him. He definitely feels like a scoring dependent guy, and I just don't have time for scoring dependent guys on a bigger slate. Brandon Ingram, 7,100 for him on opening night. He was the highest scoring DraftKings player for the Pelicans team, 41.75, had 22 points, 5 boards, 5 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. Played 35 minutes. I think he's so undersized against your typical power forwards, and I think Porzingis should have his way with him here again. But the need for him to play those minutes and soak those minutes up creates a lot of opportunity, and we already know there's going to be some decent volume. So at 7,100, I think that's the most I played for Ingram in a while without like a bunch of people being out. I might be lower on him than not, but we did see what PJ Williams the other night have was it PJ Williams I'm thinking of the backup for the starter for the Wizards. Let me double check that. Wizards and Dallas. No, it was Rui Hachimura that I'm thinking of. He played 25 minutes as a a big wing and had a double double. So if Ingram gets 35 minutes, an extra 10 minutes of what Hachimura was able to do, and we know that Ingram probably is going to have one of the higher usage rates here. I think he's in play, but at 71, I'm not locking that in. And then Derek Favors could be a little trolly, a little surprising what he might put up in that opening game. He did draw the start. And from a point per minute standpoint, did all right. 21 minutes, 19 and a quarter. But he's a guy long term this season. I don't expect to last long to be a big minute guy just because of his propensity to be a little bit more injury prone. So if I'm walking away with a few names right now, it's Lonzo, it's Ingram, it's Porzingis, it's Doncic, and then maybe we gotta keep Josh Hart just in the back of our minds. As there tends to be, or seems to be, a range of outcomes where he could outplay Lonzo here and maybe even just be the backup point guard. And he's only 3,200 on DraftKings, and I definitely think he shouldn't still be 3,200 after what he did on night one. I think there's a range of outcome where he bleeds back in for a big game. He played 28 minutes on night one, so I'll take a shot on that. I'll read more into beat reports and what people might be saying out of Lonzo's camp and the Pelicans camp, but this should be a fun game to watch on TV. I'm very stoked to see Doncic and Porzingis come out on TV. Washington Wizards at Oklahoma City Thunder. Next game on the docket, OKC at home, 219 total, 8-point spread in favor of the Oklahoma City Thunder. You don't probably expect the Thunder to be 8-point favorites a lot this season. So it's a unique opportunity to maybe look at this team for some plays and potentially some value that we don't usually look at. I think a couple names that kind of tickle me early on. I am a little bit curious with Chris Paul here. He is 7,200, but in this matchup, I think we could see him get there in terms of returning a solid value for your investment. I'm looking for the north side of 40 specifically. And he played the Utah Jazz on opening night, and that was a game that didn't even break 200 total points, and he still had 40 fantasy points because he is a guy we know fills the stat sheet. A double threat. He had 22 real points on night one with 8 rebounds, 3 assists. So this game becomes a little bit more sloppier, probably a little bit more total points, total peripherals to go around here. So this could be a really nice spot for Chris Paul at home. Just to kind of say, hey, league, I'm still a player here in the NBA, and we could probably do some work here against this Wizards backcourt that is definitely susceptible to opposing successful games. And then maybe some SGA. Alexander here, 33 fantasy points night one, led the entire team in points. Took 23 shots. That was easily the most shots on the team. And that kind of continued a trend we saw in preseason where he was one of the usage leaders for the team. So 6,500, that's certainly a price point that if you played last year, you probably never would have blinked twice at his name here. But I certainly think just in a matchup standpoint and his new role with his new team, and this is a driving point we've discussed the last couple of days with projecting new teams, new players, and how their new philosophies work out. I definitely think it stands to reason that SGA could be a 6K player, maybe specifically against the Washington Wizards. So could we get 30 plus out of him? I think so. He did not do much in the way of peripherals. He was pretty scoring dependent and was a minus 12. But I don't think he's out of the picture here. So maybe even on a shorter slate, a turbo slate or something like that, I'd have a piece. And then Steven Adams, south side of 7K. We know Chris Paul can use his bigs. I think Steven Adams kind of profiles as a decent big for Adams to thrive with. You remember DeAndre Jordan, kind of like a Steven Adams archetype in that they don't take long-range jumpers or shoot threes or anything like that, but lobs and feeding rebounds. I think Steven Adams and Chris Paul could have some success in that regard. Adams played just 28 minutes on opening night, 4 personal fouls, and it was against a really, really tough matchup, probably the toughest matchup for a center like him to go against a center like Rudy Gobert. So don't forget he exists. I do wish he was closer to 6K than 7K, but he would be a name I walk away with. And then, of course, Danilo Gallinari, still 7,100. That's what he was in his last game. 28 minutes on opening night, 21 real points, 35 fantasy points. Would be someone that I consider just because of the matchup. And then on the Wizards side, Bradley Beal is 8,600. Feels like that's too cheap. He got ejected in the first game against the Dallas Mavericks. His team muscled to 100 points. I think this Thunder team is better defensively than maybe people want to give him credit for. I know there's no Paul George, Westbrook, and all that stuff, but a Chris Paul led team. I don't know that Chris Paul is the specific reason that Mike Conley shot 1 for 16 or something like that, but I don't know that he's not. And we've known Chris Paul to be a scrappy defender here. So Bradley Beal, though, is a guy that I think could be a high usage, high minute matchup proof kind of guy. He played 32 minutes in that first game. What would he have played if he didn't get ejected? 45.5 fantasy points, almost doubled with assist. So I think there's meat on the bone for sure at 8,600 for Bradley Beal, who actually went down in price versus his night one debut. And then guys like Hachimura, maybe Isaac Bonga, we run that back. But for the most part, I'm looking at Beal, I'm looking at Hachimura, looking at Chris Paul. And then in the deep tier 3s, maybe like tier 4s, I'm looking at the SGAs and Gallows. I like the game. I don't think it's a must-target game, but I do think there's some plays logistically and plausibly that we can walk away with. Memphis Grizzlies hosting the Chicago Bulls. The next game on the docket. The Chicago Bulls put up 125 points on opening night. The Memphis Grizzlies were up against the Miami Heat on opening night and just put up 101 points. Got routed by 19 points by the Jimmy Butler-less Heat. This game's listed at a 223.5 total, and it's currently a pick'em So it's kind of up in the air in terms of range of outcomes of what could actually happen here, or what should actually happen here. I would say Zach LaVine sticks out here as a potential guy that kind of gets shadowed by what Lauri Markkanen did on opening night. Markkanen, 35 real points, 17 rebounds. Zach LaVine missed 40 fantasy points by just 2 fantasy points, played 30 minutes, had 16 real points, and then he had some peripherals to boot, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, took 17 shot attempts. So I do think there's going to be nights where Markkanen kind of does the 38, 35s, and Zach LaVine does the 45s, 50s. The Grizzlies are a team that we kind of expect to be a little bit faster than years past Grizzlies, and I think if that's the case here, the Bulls kind of build off of what they did night one in terms of just real point scoring. I'm looking at LaVine. Then Markkanen enters the conversation at AK. Don't like this matchup as much in retrospect. I think I should have liked him more against the Hornets than I did the morning of that game. But hey, regrets. And then Otto Porter, 5,500, a high minute guy that might be considered. But none of those guys are probably going to be tier ones or cash game locks or anything like that for me. The Grizzlies side, still a team that I'm not fully sold on what to expect. No one on the Grizzlies team on night one scored over 30 fantasy points. The highest scorer on the team was Tyus Jones, 24 minutes at 29.75 fantasy points, 15 real point 7 assists. So on a 9-game slate, guys, I'm probably not going to win or lose, or I'm not going to decide my night by having exposure on what can only be guesses at who the Grizzlies might feature that night. A lot of people got minutes on opening night, and there's a lot of names and a lot of who's that. Tyus Jones, Jay Morant, Jaren Jackson, Jay Crowder, Brandon Clark, Dylan Brooks, Kyle Anderson, Marco Guduric, Jonas Valanciunas, Grayson Allen, Bruno Caboclo, and D'Anthony Melton all saw run in the first game. So no Memphis for me early on. If there is someone I am completely disrespected on Memphis, maybe Jaren Jackson. You guys let me know in the comments below, but for the most part, I got nothing on this one. And we're going to move on to the next game. The Denver Nuggets hosting the Phoenix Suns. The Suns we're kind of in the middle of some news last night. We got ourselves a Woj bomb after lock. I don't know if maybe it was before lock, but it was definitely after. Or it definitely happened last night, right? DeAndre Ayton, the big youngster for the Suns there, the big center, facing a 25-game suspension for violating the NBA's anti-drug policy with a positive test for a diuretic, according to Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj said that the NBA informed Ayton and the Suns of looming suspension last night, and that the Players Association is already preparing his arbitration case to reduce or rescind penalty based on belief positive test falls under the CBA provision of, quote, unintentional ingestion. If he can't win or reduce the suspension, that would keep him out until December 17th. This is obviously devastating news to the Suns and fantasy owners, blah, 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 blah. And that's a kind of a source by Woj there. So basically, DeAndre Ayton would be out for the first quarter of the season. And here they are going from a 30-point win at home against the Kings on the road in the toughest place to play in the NBA. That's in the altitude of Denver at this Denver Nuggets team that is fully healthy without their big, without their center. So this is going to create a couple of unique aspects that maybe we didn't project yesterday morning. First of all, one thing I'm curious about is, has there ever been a team to win by 30 one night on opening night and then lose by 30 in their next game? I'm sure there has, but this certainly feels like a spot where that could happen. This front court for the Suns is going to be undersized, but we could maybe scrap up an argument that minutes equal money. I got Aaron Baines right now as the projected starter. However, we might also see a decent minute count for Frank the Tank, Frank Kaminsky, 3,300. And it does seem like our front court's short enough that no matter what your games compare, even if they get blown out the gym, there should be minutes for not only Kaminsky but Aaron Baines, and I think I like Kaminsky as a shot chucker if they're playing from behind and they're just trying to get open looks here. So these are two names to kind of keep your ear to the ground on today. I see where the world is at. And they could be some value plays. Now, usually I don't love value plays in bad matchups, but minutes equal money here, and it could pay off. I'm not going to be on the Suns overall, though. I think Devin Booker, if you're completely disagreeing with me in terms of this game being lopsided, like if you don't think the Nuggets smash the Suns, then yeah, you should probably play Booker, Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, guys like that. But I think this pace in this matchup is night and day different. Situational, circumstantial, environmental than their game against the Kings. So I'm not likely to play many Suns here. I still want to have a spot in my heart for Kelly Oubre. I love him this season, but maybe they all have average to bad games, and we just we keep their prices where they're at, or maybe even cheaper for their next game. So I'm likely not touching the big players from the Suns. Devin Booker's 8,400 is tempting. Ricky Rubio's 5,600. Just need 30, and Kelly Oubre same, just need 30. But no warm and fuzzies here. The Nuggets become more intriguing to me, where we're walking that line of great spot, great matchup, and potential blowout. The first name, Nikola Jokic, 9,300. I was not a Jokic guy on night one, and he still almost hit value against the Portland Trailblazers. In limited minutes, he was in really big early foul trouble. Played just 24 minutes and had 40 fantasy points, 20 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists. 24 minutes would probably be 30 minutes if he wasn't in foul trouble. If we get 30 minutes of Jokic versus any combination of Aaron Baines and Frank Kaminsky and whatever this Phoenix Suns front court throws at him, I'm game. I might be a guy that pays 10.5K for Jokic in this spot. And matchup specifically, he has the potential to be the highest scoring player on the entire day, in my opinion. The one caveat here being, if it blew out, would we lose out on all of the ceiling there? So I think we'll be juggling with that today. Obviously, looking at his game log, you're seeing potential for 50 pluses and whatnot. And then last season at home, he averaged 4 or 5 more fantasy points a game at home. His last year splits 53 at home, 48 on the road. So an extra 5 fantasy points at home. If worst case scenario, and I don't want to say worst case, but let's say average case scenario, right? Your median range of outcomes. If I just got 50 from Jokic at 9K, I'd be okay with that. I'll take that. And then in a util spot, if you put Jokic versus like a Kyrie and a Doncic, and maybe even a LeBron against Utah, could Doncic, logistically be the highest scorer out of those 4? I think that's a possible range of outcome as well. And I would even go as far as to say a probable range of outcome just because of the matchup. So I'm certainly in love with exposure to Jokic today. Jamal Murray at 6,300 on DraftKings. I think that's too cheap. Jamal Murray in game 1, 34 minutes, took 14 shot attempts. He only hit 4 of those shots. So if we go from hitting 4 shots to 6, 7, 8 shots, I'm in. And I also think Murray and Jokic work better together. And because of maybe some stretches without Jokic, maybe this works better for him. You guys know Jokic is a passing big. He can set up shots for his guards as well. So I don't mind a Murray to Jokic handcuff. Also on night 1, Will Barton got 31 minutes. I like him to be the 6th man of this team. Had 34 fantasy points there. On night 1, he was priced at $4,300. Tonight, he's priced at $5,200. So we pretty much need that 30 fantasy points as a return, but it's still there as a thought, especially if you kind of want to play the blowout game. And I don't like building lineups generally, projecting blowouts, because so much can happen in NBA. But when I'm reaching out to like contests with 100 lineups and 150 lineups, yeah, there's a couple of plays that I'll have specifically in case something got a little weird. And I think Will Barton's one of those guys you might consider to pick up the pieces if this game got lopsided. But hey, Jamal Murray's a young horse, man. He can still play some minutes there. So give me Murray, give me Jokic, just the favorite names here. And then Kelly Olynyk might make my player pool. And I feel like this is one of those spots where right now I'm saying it's a bad matchup. But Kelly Olynyk, not Kelly Olynyk, why did I say Kelly Olynyk? Why am I drawing a blank? Frank Kaminsky. Frank Kaminsky at 3,300. He reminds me of Kelly Olynyk with the way he plays. But Frank Kaminsky at 3,300. Right now, I feel like I won't have a lot, but I feel like as the day progresses, if I see some stuff that maybe moves his minute projection to 20, 24, 25 at this price point with the shot volume that he might have, and he's probably game script proof, I'm probably going to play some Frank Kaminsky. So we'll see how that goes. You let me know in the comments what you're going to do with that. Hey, did I mention that this afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be on twitch.tv/Gundarker99, diving even deeper and working with even more updated news on today's slate. With the Raj, the hot take guy. It's a Friday afternoon, man. You guys hit your computer, your workstation, get your drinks ready, have your pens and papers, have a good time, laugh about it. We got enough time after lock to fall back and make our lineups and hunker down. So make sure you guys are over on Twitch, got that account set up. You follow twitch.tv/Gundacker99, and you'll get the push notifications when we go live. And join the live chat. The live chat is so much fun, and we have so much fun doing it on the air. I've had a blast the first two games. Sacramento Kings hosting the aforementioned Portland Trailblazers. 225 is our total 2.5 spread in favor of the visiting Trailblazers. That spread seems insane to me. And maybe I'm overreacting one game sample size, but I'll tell you what, I think this 2.5 should be closer to 10. And I think as the day progresses, I think people will wake up and start betting this hard. So maybe I'm stupid for saying this, but I don't think this Kings team should be 2.5 point underdogs after getting smoked by 30 against the Phoenix Suns. And on top of all that, we got news from the Sacramento Kings camp. We'll start with what we know. We know Marvin Bagley, fractured right thumb, will miss 4 to 6 weeks. That's a big hit for them. We know Harry Giles has been dealing with a left knee injury. He returned to practice on Thursday, but he still needs more time, and he's getting closer to a return, but he still needs more time as a report yesterday. So he's going to be out. So already we're taking out the front court for this Kings team, and you saw what Zach Collins and Hassan Whiteside was able to do. Now let's go check out Buddy Hield. I kind of roasted Luke Walton and his minute rotation on opening night and how they got smacked by the Suns. News is starting to come out that maybe it wasn't just Luke Walton being crazy, but there was also a lot of injuries he was juggling. We'll see. Buddy Hield sprained his left ankle. He's officially questionable to play this game. So you're telling me Marvin Bagley out, Harry Giles out, Buddy Hield maybe on a flat tire if he does play, but officially questionable. You're telling me this team is a 2.5 point under? Like, what? That's it? Come on, man. I'm not buying that. And give me the Portland Trailblazers to cover this spread. We'll see how it changes. But everyone's in play on the Blazers side here. If you believe in the tight spread, yeah, you can load up. But let's start with Hassan Whiteside. I liked him against Jokic, which was just a bad matchup. I love him against the Kings, which is a great matchup. 7,200. Yes, please. On opening night, Whiteside, 26 minutes played, 43 and a quarter fantasy points, had 19 rebounds in 26 minutes against the Nuggets. Come on, bro. 16 real points. Give them to me. Whiteside might be one of my core players. I don't love that he only played 26 minutes, but I think the room for that to maybe expand is there still, because this is a shorthanded front court. You know, Paul Gasol out, Yusuf Nurkic is still going to be out quite a bit. Skal Labissiere, revenge game narrative, sure, 3K. He might be there if he projected to get lopsided. But they really don't have a whole lot of depth at the bigs here. Anthony Tolliver got 13 minutes in that opening game. And then Zach Collins would be the other guy here. I think he could thrive just fine in this matchup as a point per minute kind of guy. 5,400, not a warm and fuzzy price on him. But on opening night, 30 minutes for him, 8 real points, 5 rebounds, shot 4 for 9. But give me Whiteside all freaking day. Not just some days, all day. And then on the King side here, we can kick the dead horse, but they still have to play basketball and take shots at shooting basketballs at the hoop. If Buddy Hield was out and Bagley and all them are already out, certainly looking at a guy like maybe Nemanja Bjelica to pick up a lot of minutes and a lot of shot attempts at 3,600. I don't think it's a fantastic matchup, but matchup kind of has to take a bow to price, volume, opportunity, and minutes. I think Bjelica is somebody that we can know is a shooter that could probably get there. If Buddy Hield is down, Bogdan Bogdanovic burned me so hard on opening night, but you got to have a goldfish memory in DFS. He's 4,600 here. He might be a beneficiary of needing to pick up some of the pieces here. And then De'Aaron Fox, the obvious guy, but he is 8K, so I need the north side of 40 fantasy points. I think we can argue there's some safer alternatives out there. So my gut's telling me 2.5 point spread here is not right. But Vegas knows more than me, right? But I've kind of argued Vegas a lot so far, just to kind of like show you where I'm at live. It's 1:30 in the morning. Looking back at Portland, yeah, still 2.5 point spread there. So if that doesn't move, I might put the PayPal account on the Blazers and then feel dumb. CJ McCollum, Damian Lillard, always in play. I think it's coin flips on whether one guy goes all the way off or not. But CJ McCollum is 6,200. In this matchup, certainly something I don't mind taking a shot on. He played 36 minutes opening night, took 18 shot attempts, had 12 real points, didn't do much in the lieu of peripherals, just 3 rebounds, just 3 assists, but I could certainly play him in this matchup. Kings, of course, fast pace, less than stellar defense, so I'm liking it a lot. And then we got one game left on the docket. It's the second game of your ESPN doubleheader. Well, fun chopping this one up, but I'll be honest, this is not a game I'm in love with. It is a 10:30 game, so it's 11:30 on the East Coast. It's a really good defense in the Utah Jazz against a really hyped up Lakers team. I think Anthony Davis is still going to be the guy I'm going after here. We have seen him have some stellar games against the Utah Jazz. I think LeBron James is still under 10K, so we have to take a couple shots. The Utah Jazz, maybe not exactly where the Clippers are on defense, but I still respect the Jazz team defense as a whole. But let's go pull up StatMuse real quick, because Anthony Davis, I feel like, has a much better history against the Jazz than a lot of people expect with names like Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year candidates. Anthony Davis, DKP by game log versus Utah Jazz last, let's go 5 games here. And of course, this is going to be with the Pelicans, without LeBron, blah, 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 blah. But 62.8, 40.3, 73. That 40.3 came in 35 minutes. So range of outcomes there of 40 would not be what you want, but 60 and 70, absolutely. And in this team, I would definitely be looking at Anthony Davis to be a high usage, high catalyst guy to keep any Laker game close, because I don't trust Danny Green to have career shooting nights more often than I do, right? On opening night against the Clippers, Anthony Davis, 25 real points, 9 boards, 5 assists, 37 minutes played. So the minutes were there. Obviously, you're going to hear jokes about him being injury prone all day. I can't play that pre-lock. If he goes to the locker room at half, so be it. Give him some AD exposure for sure, especially to close out a night as a late night hammer on a slate that likely will realistically have even more value open up throughout the day. And then LeBron James at 9,500. I think that's too cheap for LeBron overall. I know he had a poor night 1 from a fantasy standpoint. At 46 fantasy points, certainly you want the north side at 50, but not doesn't need a whole lot to turn that 46 into a 50 plus. And at 95, maybe even you could argue 55, 60 is what you want in tournaments. But he missed a triple double by 3 assists against the defensive stylings of Kawhi Leonard and Patrick Beverley. I will give him a break here, and I'll take a shot at him. I just told you guys how Chris Paul was able to get to 40 fantasy points. So I'm certainly not ruling out LeBron James here. Keeping an eye on the injury report for the Lakers as well. See if we have any continuation on limitations on potentially Rajon Rondo. I think he's good to go. He didn't play opening night. Let me double check. Rondo calf soreness looked, quote, good during practice on Thursday, according to Coach Frank Vogel. He's still officially questionable for Friday's game. His status could be determined after LA shoot around. Best news is that Vogel said there will be, quote, a lot of games where Rondo is our starting point guard. Says he would take over for Avery Bradley as a starter, and it's a boost to his fantasy. Okay, so we'll see if some more clarification on what the Lakers might run out there, at least to start, might be. But early on, I think LeBron and AD are obviously the two names I'm walking away with. And then, if we have to run it back, Utah Jazz offers a lot of options. We can kind of heighten the aura, the narrative, the importance of this game. Utah's opportunity on national TV to go against who many people, not me, not twitch.tv/Gundacker99, not twitter.com/GundackerSports, not me, not the founder of RunDFS.com, not me, but there are people out there that think the Lakers are the team to beat, and this is a chance on national TV for the Utah Jazz to do just that. And in night one, the Utah Jazz were able to muscle out a victory over the Oklahoma City Thunder when their starting point guard, Mike Conley, shot 1 for 16. He made 1 out of 16 shots, and they still won by 5 points. So at sub 7K, he starts hitting a couple more of those shots here. This team becomes a problem. But because he struggled, somebody else had to step up, and that somebody was Donovan Mitchell. 32 real points for him, 12 rebounds for Mitchell in 36 minutes played. So Mitchell at under 8K certainly gives us a shot at 40-plus fantasy points. I think you give him the late-night hammer fluffiness, the asterisk there if you really are a late-night hammer guy. I don't mind that for him. And then past him, Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert, 8,200. It's the first time I can recall Gobert not getting like a double-double. He only had 7 real points in that first game. Only took 3 shots. It's usually a walking double-double. Now, I feel like at 8,200, he's one of the least sexy plays at the center position. So I get not wanting to run to him, but I certainly think he certainly exists enough that 40-plus fantasy points at 8,200 would be a fine range of outcomes. But if I'm putting all the centers on the board for raw points and checking off matchups and whatnot, give me some Jokic for sure. And of course, if Gobert has to get tasked with leaving the paint a little bit to go babysit Anthony Davis or something like that, Cat, Jokic, Hassan Whiteside. There's so many other players at the center position that I'm on, but it kind of makes Gobert a little bit more lucrative leverage play. So there's plenty of different ways to play this game. I think the Lakers themselves are looking to bounce back after an opening night L. But hey, that opening night game was on the road, and now they're at home. LOL. Hit a thumbs up if you got that joke. So we'll see how they show up and show out on national TV, man. I'm excited for today's 9-game slate of basketball. I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, guys, but twitch.tv/Gundacker99. I want you guys to be at the live streams. I want to build the live streams up to be something special over there. And we're going to have so much fun. If you guys want other ways to support me and get a little something in return, you can go to rundfs.com. That's my baby, man. Go make an account, get signed up, get yourself a VIP pass. Today is the last day. Today, Friday, October 25th. Today's the last day to get the MVP package, which locks you in to full coverage. That's 24/7 access to the premium Discord, the daily pre-log voice chats, the NFL coverage, the NBA coverage. We got baseball in April. This gets you all of that until the end of NBA, which is in June. for 350 bucks. And to kind of explain how much of value that is, right now month passes are at 100 bucks, which I think that's a good value in it. So I know it feels like a lot, but guys, I don't think many other sites are literally opening their microphones and headsets to you for 2 hours before lock, and you talk back. There's a lot of talking to me through a chat, right? But that's actually a voice chat, whatnot, 24/7 comm. So come get in on that. Take advantage of that. Today's the last day. Probably the last big sale that you see until maybe Christmas. So yeah, take advantage of that. I appreciate you guys stopping by the YouTube channel, man. We are pushing almost 5,000 subscribers. I feel like we skyrocketed the first couple of years to easily 3K, 4K, but it has taken me forever, absolutely forever, to get near 5,000 subscribers. And I got hit over the summer with a couple copyrights, and I think YouTube pushed me out of the algorithm. And I've done some campaigns to kind of get back into the good graces of YouTube. You know, we cleared all the channel of old videos. So if you guys really like or find some value in my content, whether it be, hey, I just listen to Gun to see who he's on so I can fade them, help me out. Hit that sub button, hit that thumbs up button, and maybe share a video or two. Let somebody know that I'm here, and I would be greatly indebted to you. And one more again, twitch.tv/Gundacker99. Live today, 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have so much fun talking to Slate, and then hopefully tonight we'll have even more fun making some money. If you guys got anything else for me, twitter.com/Gundecker Sports. All the links are in the description below. I'll see you guys in the next video. I love each and every one of you. Good luck. God bless. Go win some money.